Welcome everybody to the American Space Museum, where we preserve the history of the American space age and inspire the next generation of space workers. I'm Mark Marquette, and we're glad you're with us today to stay curious. And I'm with us today is Ellen Brown. Hello, Ellen.
Hi, I'm Mark.
Great to have you with us. She has worked 30 years at Kennedy Space Center as a contractor from the Shuttle era, now working on the ARTEMIS program, and she's going to tell us a little about that. She's currently a program support manager and involved in public affairs with the Aerodyne Industries, part of the big contract out there that they call TOSC, which stands for Test Operations Support Contract.
You got it.
I always like those acronyms. But we're so glad Ellen's with us today, and we're going to be talking to her in a minute or two. As you know, on Stay Curious, we appreciate you following us, our proud nonprofit here in Brevard County. We've even got these Stay Curious COVID masks there. We're going to give you one, Ellen, and a pen there. And we are very COVID conscious at our museum. We got a plexiglass barrier here, and we are doing tours at 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and 2 o'clock. So you can go to our website. There's an easy button to push and bring your family when you're visiting here this fall in downtown Titusville. A lot to see, and we miss you. So been closed for 6 months, and we're in our pandemic recovery, because we figure, Ellen, we lost about $50,000 in the 6 months that this small, humble nonprofit was closed. And nonprofit money lost, you'll never get it back again. But we're so glad our museum's looking great. You looked around a little bit, and you saw our new Space Workers Gallery. We're excited about that, and we've got a new Hubble Gallery. But we're here in our Space Shuttle Gallery, and behind me, that our cameraman and co-producer Marty Winkle is going to pan around and show you some things as we talk with Ellen Brown here. This recreation of the hub of the pad 39A or B was actually a working model that was built in about 1970 to show contractors and politicians what they were talking about when they were pitching a space transportation system to Congress as our next phase of the American space program. Envisioned as a space truck to take up every satellite. They were so arrogant at the time that they said you wouldn't need any more single stick rockets. Okay, forget those. You're going to want to load everything up in a shuttle, and we're going to take it to space for you. Well, we know after 25 launches and the Challenger disaster that it was a lot harder than it looked. Instead of doing 1 or 2 launches a week, they were 9 or 10 was the most ever done in a year. But still, it is an important 30-year legacy of our American space program. And Ellen, you were part of it, and we're gonna get to her little role in that, as well as working today for our ARTEMIS program, going to the moon and beyond. We always have a few things, Ellen, that we enjoy on our space program today, and one of the fun things is Astronaut Birthdays. And as Marty Winkle moves in on there to show you Rich Clifford, happy 68th birthday to Rich at the top there, and at the bottom is Mike Good. Bueno Good. He's got the nickname Bueno, and I couldn't figure out what that was from. But Mike Bueno Good, he's 58 today, one of the last humans to touch the Hubble Space Telescope. He was on the last mission. Rich Clifford was born in San Bernardino, California, but considers Ogden, Utah to be his hometown, and he still lives there. Interestingly, 3 space missions he was on, 28 days in space, and he knew he had Parkinson's disease in 1994. And his missions were in 92 with STS-53, STS-59 was 1994, and 76 was 96. And only he and his commander on STS-76 knew he had Parkinson's disease. And then he retired. So he champions that dreaded illness, and we wish him a happy 68th birthday to Rich Clifford. And Mike Good, there at the bottom, Bueno Good, was born in Parma, Ohio, and there's 21 astronauts from the great Buckeye State where I was born. Okay, and but the Buckeyes and the Purdue graduates, I think, should have an arm wrestle over who's the best, because they both have a lot of astronauts.
Georgia Tech too. Don't forget about Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech has a lot too, and you're a proud Georgia Tech grad. We'll talk about that in a minute. He was born in Parma, Ohio. 2 missions, 25 days in space for Mike Good, and he's just 58, but he retired with no seats available there after the shuttle was retired. So happy birthday to those 2 astronauts. We love sharing that with you. And then a little bit in space history, Ellen, that we always share. First up is tonight at 1:45 a.m. I'm going to be setting the alarm or yawning after looking at Mars all night through telescopes. We are going to have NASA astronaut Kate Rubins take her second trip to the ISS as she's launched with two Russians, Commander Sergei Ryzhikov on his second mission, and a cosmonaut named Sergei Servekov. That's as close as you're going to get. And he's going to be a rookie. So we keep track of how many humans have been in space as defined as above the 100-kilometer or 60-mile Kármán line, and there's 565. So Sergei Serkov, he'll become the 566th human since 1961 in Yuri Gagarin's first flight. So 1:45 a.m. launch. I'm sure NASA Channel will broadcast it because there's a NASA astronaut on it, but you never know about the NASA Channel. Would you believe tomorrow is Kate's 42nd birthday? So we'll be wishing her a happy birthday, and at 4 o'clock tomorrow telling you that they safely are now docked to the International Space Station. It's going to be a quick 2-orbit ride to the space station. No lollygagging a day and a half like they sometimes do. They're going to rocket right up there, and this is, of course, always a test to see how quickly they can do it. So stay up late or set your DVR. They will be docked to the ISS at right before 5 o'clock in the morning. So hopefully you can watch that live on NASA TV. So also in space today was the first Russian 3-man mission landed in October 13th, 1964. We talked about that yesterday. They crammed 3 cosmonauts in a 1-man spacecraft that they flew 6 times, the Vostok, and they called it a Voskhod. And Premier Khrushchev of Russia, he wanted this as a propaganda stunt. Guess what? When they landed today in 1964, Khrushchev was ousted in a coup, and Brezhnev greeted them as the new premier of Russia. So Khrushchev's little toy that he used the cosmonauts definitely as propaganda toy was over. And though he used them a lot, kind of sad in his retirement, nobody from the space program went and saw him at his retirement home. Yet he made them all famous and made Valentina Tereshkova marry another cosmonaut. And we love talking about that stuff, Ellen. 52 years ago, here is Apollo 7 crew spending their second day in space with a brand new moon ship that proved so reliable and a huge moment to get back in space after the Apollo 1 fire on the ground. So we had Wally Schirra, Cunningham, and Eisel. Don Eisel passed away, as did Wally Schirra. Cunningham is 88 years old. And what's Cunningham's first name?
Walt.
Walt, thank you. Couldn't bring that to my pea brain. Now, we love what's in space, Ellen, on this day in history. And we've got this crew, 41G, is landing today in 1984. And up in space in 1990 is 41, which has Bob Cabana, his first mission as a pilot, right there. 12 years he's been the ultimate boss at Kennedy Space Center. We hope to get him on Stay Curious. A great supporter of our museum is Bob Cabana. 4 missions, 2 as a commander, and he just likes being called, I'm just plain Bob, he says, doesn't he? Mm-hmm. Very approachable man. Also in space in 2000 is this important mission that took up girders to the International Space Station in the year 2000, STS-92. Look at all those astronauts on there. There was just 2, the Zvezda model and the Unity model was ready, and the next week we're going to be talking about the Soyuz that took up Expedition 1. with Bill Shepard as its commander as we begin 20 years of continuous occupancy of the space station starting in November. Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
20 years continuous occupation up there, and it'll all start with the first crew, and they're up to 65 or 66 expedition crews. And also in space is 112. You might have been a part of this one, which was one of the last construction missions in 2009. 112 went up there, and they had a very important girder assembly to put up there. So quite a few shuttle missions in the air, and Apollo 7, and we love you remembering that to help you stay curious on our weekly program here. So, well, I'm going to kind of get our little COVID barrier here safe so we can hear more about Ellen Brown. And Ellen, as I told you, has had a 30-year career out of Kennedy Space Center as a contractor. And as we've told you before, Kennedy Space Center, you need to think of as like the homeowner. And you get a contractor to do yard work and woodwork and all sorts of things as you do improvements. And that's what builds our spaceships, are the contractors. And NASA is the funneling of the money that taxpayers pay to have these programs going on. So you have, Ellen, let's talk a little bit about your background, that you grew up in Savannah, Georgia, right?
I did.
And you're a Georgia Tech grad, which has John Young boasting as its probably one of its most famous, a lot of astronauts and, of course, engineers from Georgia Tech. And you also are at Embry-Riddle up the road here in Daytona, where Nicole Stott also got a degree. We talked to her. So how when you were a little girl, what were you playing with? Rockets or dolls?
I was a swimmer. I was very athletic.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good way to open this conversation up, Ellen. Is good.
I grew up with two brothers, so we did a lot of football in the yard and playing outside in Savannah. We had a neighborhood pool down the street, so my summer job was a lifeguard, and I swam competitively on the swim team. But my dad did tell me a story. We used to go to Daytona a lot for vacation. Mm-hmm. And one year we came to the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Center and took the tour. And that's back when, a long time ago, they would drive the buses like to the VAB door. And I remember we got to walk in the VAB. And after I started working at the Space Center, he asked me, "Did you ever think you would work out there?" And I said, "No. You know, back then when you were a little girl, you had no idea." So that was a neat thing that we did growing up.
Yes, it was very accessible. Sundays you could get in the car or station wagon and drive around all of the launch complexes in the 60s and early 70s. Yep, and it certainly has changed a lot. So what happened? How did you get involved in this? Was it through going to Georgia Tech, an engineering school? What was your what did you want to pursue?
Yes, at Tech I graduated with a bachelor's in industrial and systems engineering, and I had two summer jobs while I was in college. One was with UPS, and UPS hired industrial engineering students to do time studies on their drivers.
United Parcel Service.
Yeah. So we had our little brown uniforms, and we rode around with the drivers with our clipboard and stopwatch on the clipboard, and we had to time everything they did. Huh. And then the other summer job I had between my junior and senior year was with a division of M&M Mars in Albany, Georgia. Uh-huh. And they had purchased this software package called Simon, and a sorority sister of mine from Georgia Tech was a co-op there. And they needed somebody to come for the summer and learn this language and try to write software code. So I did that. And you're modeling the line, their manufacturing and processing line. So I got the program running before the end of the summer, but after those two jobs I thought, I'm not sure I want to do time studies for the rest of my life or write software code. So when I was graduating from Georgia Tech, McDonnell Douglas was hiring a lot of industrial engineers. And I actually had a plant trip out to California where they were building airplanes with McDonnell Douglas. And they also were hiring IEs here in Titusville. If you don't know, if you didn't live in Titusville, back in the 80s, McDonnell Douglas used to have a huge plant on 405 there that was a Tomahawk cruise missile plant. They built Tomahawk cruise missiles there.
Okay.
Well, now that's Knight's Armament.
Oh, okay. Okay. I know what
So
you're talking
I
about
took
here
the
in town.
job with McDonnell Douglas in Titusville. It was closer to home. I could drive to Savannah if I needed to. And actually, the salary they offered me was only $800 different than the California job. And at that
Wow.
time, it was like $25,000 a year back in the mid-'80s. So I started at McDonnell Douglas in Titusville as a quality engineer.
Okay.
And they hired
On
several
the,
other...
on the Tomahawk missile, which was a cruise missile, it still is a cruise missile,
Yep.
I'm sure, that was a very important missile in the Middle East conflicts and so
Yes.
forth, wasn't it? So.
They had air launch, sea launch, ground launch, different types of missiles.
In there, so then you computers and Marty's a computer guy, and when you guys have seen the evolution of computers, my gosh,
Oh,
what you
yes.
first worked with, 25, 30 years ago, to what we're working with now, how does that strike you, being an insider to all
Well,
of this?
it's very different, even from when we started back, in the 80s. When we were, Milmer Marty, we were building TCIDs, test configuration identifiers. When I first started at the Space Center,
TCIDs, test configuration identifiers.
Identifiers.
I love these acronyms, folks. You know I do.
that was where
TCID, okay.
we gathered all the requirements that would be needed for a mission.
Uh-huh.
And it depended on, and it changed. You didn't build just one TCID for each flow. You built multiple TCIDs because you had to put in the certain configurations, what vehicle it was, like which shuttle, which pad it was going to, all these different things, what payload it had on it. And so our group, it was called Ground Software Integration. We built the TCIDs that would be loaded in the firing rooms that would be used for launch. They had development ones that, as you were writing the code, they would change the TCIDs and you would test, and then when you get close to launch, you'd have your launch TCID that was used. But how I got on it at KSC was I was going for my master's degree, still working at McDonnell Douglas, and I was in a class with Susan Floyd. If y'all remember Susan Floyd, she was one of the managers out in LPS, Launch Processing System, the organization we worked in. And it was after the Challenger accident where they started hiring people back. And she approached a few of us asking us if we were interested in jobs out there. So I interviewed and got the job. So that's how I started at KSC. I spent about 3 years at McDonnell Douglas in Titusville. And then I started out in the software organization at KSC.
So roughly 1990?
It was 88, 1988.
88, okay. She was awful young, too, to be out
I
there working
was.
at that age there. And so what were the challenges of being a woman? Was there any obstacles that you felt? Was it a equal opportunity employer?
Yeah, I never had, nothing comes to mind that was a real challenge being a woman. Actually, the group I was in was mostly women at the time. And there were a lot of women in the software organization. After I did ground software integration for a while, I moved into a group called Project Engineering, and that group was more men. And you were assigned different projects, which I really enjoyed the variety of things. What the big change came was when I went over to, they started an industrial engineering group. They didn't have a formal IE group at KSC, and then they started one. And we were moved over to the OPFs, the Orbiter Processing Facility, and it was to help the technicians and the engineers make their processes more efficient, try to get some of the obstacles out of their way. What were their challenges? And we were there to try to help make them better. Pat Floyd, who's sitting over there, was in the industrial engineering group with us for a while. And it was very different being in that environment around the hands-on, the orbiter hardware versus the software world. That's what I would say the difference is. The software and hardware world was very different. It was very exciting being in the OPFs, and you would see astronauts come through there all the time. Like I pointed out the picture in there to you. Oh, Mark Polanski, I worked on a window polishing project with him. And some of the projects that you worked on that were flight hardware related could be very challenging because It had to go through a lot of approvals anytime you wanted to change something. One of our projects, like I mentioned, was window polishing, and the technicians used to have to lay on their stomachs with their arms out and just polish with this, do you remember what it was called?
Glaze.
This orange glaze stuff, because the windows would get debris burnt on them when they came back from orbit. And we were just trying to get them a mechanical polisher, you know, something that would be much easier, and you could calibrate that versus just somebody manually doing this. If you have a 100-pound woman doing it versus a 300-pound guy doing it, you're going to get very different pressures on that. Right. So we learned a lot working in the OPF. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it over there.
That's and for the orbital processing facility. They're garages for the shuttle. There's 3 of them beside the. Yeah, Marty, you want to pan over there? This is one that is a model we have here that KSC gave us some time back. It doesn't have the built-in skin on it, but the orbiters are, it's like their garage. There's 3 of them beside the VAB. Today, Boeing is using one for the Starliner, and the other one is for their X-37 spy plane that's up there now. And the third one, who uses the third one? Does KSC use that one, or is it just a OPF?
No, Boeing has all 3, I think.
They have all 3 of them? Okay. So anyway, it's fascinating to talk to people that have been in there, because an orbiter can be in there, and tell us about that. You don't even know it's in there, right? I mean, you're walking around and
there's the platforms and all around them. The best view you would get is underneath the orbiter when you're looking up at the tile.
Yeah. You're so close to it with different layer platforms, you lose sight of where you're at, I'm told.
So actually, I have.
Yeah, she's got some show and tell.
You said bring some show and tell.
And
so
yep, we're gonna have some show and tell there.
Pat, you're probably in.
And
the
we do have
picture.
We've got Ellen's husband David's here, and Pat Floyd. We got a little cheering crowd here, and we love it. We'd love for you shuttle guys to hang out here. Wave, Marty's putting you on TV there. We got our friends in Robert Law in Scotland, and Dean in New Zealand are regulars on our show, and we appreciate them. What you have there, Ellen?
So, in the OPF, this is a picture.
There, I put the ink off.
This is a picture in the crew compartment, and then this was the airlock as you crawled through. At the end of the shuttle program, everybody signed the walls around there.
Yeah, here. Let's see if we can set it right there.
Yeah, moving it around.
Point it down.
There you go.
There. Oh, is that good? There, right, about right there, Mark. There, okay. There we go.
So that's just examples of being in the orbiter in the OPF. And then this was our industrial engineering group. We started out with a group of 5. 3 of us were Georgia Tech graduates, by the way, in that group. Jamie McLean and Russ Scott. And Tim Chastain and Roy Trimboli were the original 5. And then we grew to much bigger, and Pat came part of the group, and we hired a lot of folks from outside of KSC. You know, it wasn't just internal folks from after the beginning. And then NASA was really good about doing what I would call public affairs opportunities for employees. You know, when the orbiter was rolling over, this was one time when it was rolling over, that's what we called it, from the orbiter processing facility to the VAB. They would stop the orbiter for a while, and you could go out and get pictures taken and things like that.
Oh, I've heard of stories of the rollouts to the pad.
Yep.
I think a real famous one was Discovery went out at night, or one of the last ones at night, and
some of the gorgeous
some
pictures.
of my friends said they just got a bucket of chicken and sat there and watched it roll out. And yeah, those are some nice perks.
They would allow you to bring your family out sometimes. Remember when Mitchell was little, and we could bring our kids out there, and they got to see things like that. There's
definitely
pictures.
You can say that about working as a contractor out there is they build the family sense of companionship with
Absolutely.
you all, right?
Absolutely. That's one of the best things I would say about KSC is it is like a family. I know it sounds a little corny, but it's a work family, but some of our best friends are people that we know from work, and the people that we keep in touch with, and the people that we do things with. And you know, if you ever need something or have a problem, you've got your coworkers that are more than your coworkers. They're really good friends. We've had employees that have had serious illnesses and just informally raise money. We had a taco luncheon for a guy one time, and he had some serious cancer issues, And just for lunch, with all the donations, we raised over $2,000.
Oh, wow.
You know,
That's
things
sweet.
like that you can count on people to help you when you really need it. But it's also a great place to work. It's really exciting, but it's a lot of hard work too. Long hours.
It's exciting. You never knew when something was going to fly in or take. I mean, you knew when things were going to take off and fly in, but there's always
Point out you're in the cabin.
unexpected.
Pardon?
Point out that you're inside the cabin.
Oh,
Oh,
you're,
that one in the crew compartment?
which orbiter's that, you think?
Oh, I don't remember back when.
Atlantis?
Well, yeah, it would have been at the end of the program.
OV
Yeah, now most of
104?
these were at the end of the program. During the program, you didn't get as much access. It was after the shuttle program where they opened things up a little more to
Yeah.
family. And then also I worked the Ares 1X program. You know, originally that was part of
Yes, you
Constellation.
had a picture of the Ares over there, or that's the SLS you brought.
Yeah, that was the
I thought you had a little
SLS.
Ares thing with you there.
I'm excited for the big main center picture.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
this
right,
is the
yeah, there-
Ares
there you
rocket.
go,
This
yes,
is Shuttle,
yeah.
and this is the Ares 1X rocket. When it launched, it was Time Magazine's Invention of the Year.
Right.
And then we had a really good team.
The vehicle is at the visitors complex on the other side of the IMAX movie. If you
Right.
go out there, be sure and you see the IMAX movie. To the left of the IMAX movie at Kennedy Visitors Complex is they've got the Orion capsule there for that, and the demo of that. And,
Right. This was the
SpaceX's
precursor to
first
SLS.
Dragon, Crew Dragons there, as well as a good replica of the Boeing Starliner is out there.
So this was the precursor to SLS.
Yes, right.
So now the new program name is ARTEMIS, which that's this picture. Okay, so I have a question for you.
Yes.
Do you know who Artemis was?
Artemis was Apollo's twin sister.
Yes, very good.
And yes, and a huntress. And another name, the equivalent in Rome would be Helena, I guess. And,
Yeah. So the new program name is Artemis, and it's the SLS rocket with the Orion capsule, which is the crewed part, and then the ground piece is called Exploration Ground Systems, or EGS. So that's all the work that we've been doing at Kennedy Space Center since the end of the shuttle program, getting ready for the new vehicle. Since this vehicle is a different configuration, you know, shuttle was more of the airplane style of vehicle, but SLS is going back to the stick style. We had to modify the VAB platforms, you know, for this rocket. The mobile launcher that we're using was actually the mobile launcher on the Ares program
Yes.
that we've reconfigured and modified. So we're able to use a lot of the shuttle heritage facilities and equipment on the new program as well. And EGS has been doing a really good job of getting everything ready. The pad is a whole completely different, there's no pad structure around anymore. It's a clean pad structure. So when the mobile launcher rolls out with the vehicle on it, it stays there. The crawler has been updated. All of the facilities.
The
that we're
mobile
using.
launcher was out there a year ago, and actually I had an encounter with Andy Allen, the president of the
From Aerodyne
Jacobs.
and our contract, yes,
your
program
contractor
manager.
and former astronaut. And that was a couple months ago, and he said they were going to pull it back out. They needed to take the ML back out there and give it another workout.
We
But
are
they haven't-
actually.
Are you
We're planning to do that within the next month.
good? Like seeing it out there when
Yes.
This is the launch pad that's closest to the Max Brewer Bridge. For those of you that come to the Space Coast in Titusville, and
Yep.
that's the one that NASA still owns, and they lease 39A to SpaceX, and that's where the crew they're going to launch the next crew in mid-November now.
Right.
Yeah.
The SLS is using Pad B.
Yes, and there's a green run, they call it, at Marshall, where the whole system, the rocket part of it, they're going to put these solid rockets through the test. Is that right?
Yes, we are waiting on them to finish the green run. We have all of the hardware at KSC except the core stage, which is what we're waiting on to finish their work at Stennis. And so it's very exciting right now. There's all the hardware is coming in, operations are really picking up, most of the development is completed. So, you know, SLS is the biggest rocket that has ever been launched. The vision is to get out of low Earth orbit, where space station and all that is in low Earth orbit, and to go to the moon and then eventually to Mars. So our plan is to launch late next year, late 2021, and it's going to be a really, really exciting launch. I'm looking forward to that. I was never experienced the Apollo launches,
Right.
and got to be part of a lot of shuttle launches. So
Yes, unfortunately, I have no shuttle launches. I had a couple canceled on me, but these are the shuttle strap-on boosters with the solid rocket that I keep telling you is like just a big pop bottle rocket. You can't turn them off when you turn them on, but it's 5 segments instead of 4 that the shuttle had, and they're massive and they weigh hundreds of tons. It's incredible, and the whole idea is to get you 20 miles up first, and then the second stage is those will drop off, and 4 shuttle main engines that you and Marty worked on and Launch Process Services will take over and get it up the rest of the way, right?
Yep. Yes.
So everybody is pulling together. It looks like the end of next year, quite possibly, that this would fly a demo mission with an Orion capsule on it.
Yes.
Is that what you're looking at?
And the plan with the capsule now, it will land back in the Pacific, in the ocean, and we've been sending crews out there practicing off of Navy ships and pulling in the Orion, the mock-up Orion capsule into the well deck of the ship. So we've been doing a lot of work on that as well.
I know I was going to ask Alan Brown, who's our guest here on Stay Curious. You know, I've learned a lot being around and talking to our space workers today, and one thing that comes up is flow, and flow directors, and flow this and that. And when you're talking about all these things coming together, that's the flow, right? That's
Yes.
Everything has to come together, and every segment of this has a management area that has to be overseen, and then there's one whole flow director, right, that's responsible for the whole thing. I find that fascinating, and I'm setting you up to turn this around here to show you a little bit about what you're involved in, and proudly I know you got a black belt in this what we're calling the Lean Six Sigma. Now, this is a roadmap about how space workers work, and so tell us a little about that, Alan.
So there's a few different things. There is positions called flow managers. So they usually manage the different facilities and the operational work going on in those facilities. We also have...
And they can be all over the country, the facilities, right?
Well, no, I'm talking about at KSC right now.
Okay, all right.
So one of the big challenges for the ARTEMIS program is there are multiple contractors that own the different pieces. We call them the OEMs, the original equipment manufacturers. You know, Boeing has Core Stage, Lockheed Martin has Orion, Jacobs has EGS at Kennedy, Northrop Grumman for the boosters, and then Aerojet Rocketdyne for the engines. So there's a lot of integration that has to happen between all of these, plus the multiple NASA centers that are doing all the different work on the different pieces of hardware. So one of the things that we try to do at KSC is to make our processes more efficient, safer, and we use Lean Six Sigma. So as part of, I'm the continuous improvement manager, and we train people in greenbelt training right now. They have different levels. When we were USA on Shuttle, USA had a big Lean Six Sigma program where we were training black belts, master black belts, and then green belts. The highest level is master black belt. Then it goes to black
Which
belt.
you have attained.
And I've attained a black belt.
Great.
So one of the things we're doing on our contract is we're training green belts, which is a little bit lower level, and we follow this DMAIC process, which stands for Define, Measure, Analyze, Improve, and Control. So you may have an area where there's a challenge or a problem, and we'll get a team together and being led by a green belt, and that green belt has been trained in the Lean Six Sigma methodologies that we're using, and they get certified. They go through the training, they pass a test, and to get certified, they have to run a project. And so I have a really good coworker, Amy Pettit, who's been doing our Greenbelt training. And so for their projects, though, they go through these phases and they identify the different things, like you might develop a process map for your current state so that you will lay out the flow, like you're talking about, of that process. And then by the end, though, you want your future state process. What have you improved in that process? What non-value add tasks have you taken out? What rework have you eliminated? What waste have you gotten rid of? Things like that in your process. And you can get trained in Lean Six Sigma by a variety of organizations. The Institute of Industrial Engineers trains in that. ASQC trains people in that. It's recognized globally. It really started in the manufacturing environment, especially big with Nissan and Toyota. Toyota was the big proponent, and then GM was how it came over to the States.
Yes, I was going to say this is outside the space industry, which of course our modern business models were developed a lot from the structures of the early 60s NASA, needing quality control and quality checks and redundancy. And you started a career in industry. You could have been working for an automotive business or something, doing these types of system checks. But in space, you even have more things probably to look at. And I look at this, Ellen, and it's like the algebra of business, if you will. But it makes so much sense. You define your business opportunity. You measure the process of where it's at right now. You analyze how you're going to get there, your root causes of things. Improve, eliminate waste and variation. Every business wants to do that. And then control is your results.
You want to keep it sustained.
That you want to keep getting the same repetitive over and over. It's like being a master chef. I enjoy cooking, but if I was making chicken cordon bleu, 100 of them every night for 20 years, I'd probably go insane. Okay, but that's what perfection is you strive to have complete control over what you're doing and it be perfectly repetitive.
Well, and minimize variation.
Yes, and in the space program, there's just so little tolerances that you are like the king of this, in my opinion, right?
We try.
We try, yeah. Well, and these are good jobs, and I'll point this out to you watching our program on a steady basis that have kids in college or going to college or you yourself want to re-educate yourself. This is where the world's going, am I correct?
Lean Six Sigma is still popular. One of the things that we also do is we have a really good intern program for college students out there. Contractor as well as NASA, we try to hire summer interns, and a lot of those interns will get hired on full-time when they graduate. It's a really good learning opportunity for people, not just engineers, but we're also doing it for hands-on technician workers. We're doing it for business office, finance and accounting people as well. So those are good opportunities to take advantage of.
Give us a nutshell of ARTEMIS. You said spirits are high, things are flowing in the right direction, that all the hardware's coming here. And guess where it has to come, folks? It all has to come right here in Brevard County, where they're going to launch it to space, the only place in America where they can do that right now. Vandenberg and Wallops Island accepted there with their limitations. So things are looking good?
Yes, there's a lot of integration going on. We're finishing up writing all of the work authorization documents, as we call them, WADs. We're getting all the requirements from the OEMs, the other companies that have their pieces of hardware. And so all that gets put together at KSC, and then we will start running our simulations. The big thing going on too now is a lot of software. They're finishing up. They just did a major design certification review for the software, making sure all that's working properly.
So then how about our private partners? Boeing has had a problem with the Starliner, and they're going to refly the crewed thing. They're under the same rules, under the same type of techniques and so forth.
Well, that's a different program, so I'm not sure about about.
I guess my
the
question
specific
is whether it
Starliner
be
piece.
Orion or Starliner or SpaceX's Crew Dragon. There's not much. These type of values and following and all that stuff has to be adhered to no matter what company you are, right?
Well, Lean Six Sigma can be used in any program.
Okay.
I mean, it's also used very prominently in healthcare, in hospitals. Those are places
Okay.
where you want very minimal failures. Think of it that way. You want to minimize your failures in especially life-changing programs.
Okay.
The medical field, aerospace, airlines.
I guess I was fishing for where Boeing seemed to skip some steps in their integration of their total system, and they have problems with it.
Oh, we don't have anything to do
but
with
you
that,
don't- you
so
don't-
I
no,
can't
and no one
address
compares
that.
notes. Nobody. You're not comparing notes.
Oh, there are
with them
lots
in a
of
way
lessons
that-
learned shared, yes.
Okay.
That's one of the things we also do is after every major project, we'll capture lessons learned for those projects.
Mm-hmm.
We put them in a database. We share them with other projects that are ongoing. We share them with our NASA customer and anybody else that we think it can help.
Okay, yeah, I guess that's what I was getting at, is that you do share information, and we had this problem, and you might want to look at it there.
Yes.
And
Reduce risk, capture lessons learned.
so you're outside the bailiwick of why the Crew Dragon was delayed now 2 weeks. If they want to
Correct.
look at the Merlin engine that they had a hiccup on a few weeks ago, and make sure that doesn't happen. So all of that's just being prudent, right?
Right, and
Yeah.
each contract has their own way of doing business. So for TOSC, we have processes and procedures we follow. We document everything. We capture any non-conformances that may come up. We have a full cycle of the way we capture our information.
Well, that's it. This is all very interesting and new to me in many ways. And original equipment manager. I always wonder what OEM meant.
Manufacturer.
Manufacturer, yeah, manufacturer. That's your big outfits and what they're bringing in there. I was asking you earlier that meeting space workers, they seem to have a different attitude about life and look at life and I think in a very good way. Explain that a little bit. Or do you think so?
I really enjoy working out there. It's a lot of hard work, and there are things that you have to be very careful with. Safety is always in the forefront. Like I've noticed, we had a contractor come to our house one time to redo our driveway and stuff, and they were cutting concrete and bricks with no safety glasses on. There's things like that you notice because you've been taught and you learn those kinds of things. When Dave does something mechanical, or he'll wear safety glasses if he needs to and stuff like that. I got on to my neighbor the other day. He was doing his yard work with flip-flops on. I'm like, you should have on better shoes. So there's
No
things
doubt.
like that.
That's where I was driving at.
There's things like that you take away from the job.
Yeah, the
when you're
wonderful
taught
NASA
that.
people I know, it's not like they're overboard on safety. It's like they're more safety conscious about things that maybe I think it's ingrained in you to be looking that step ahead all the time.
Yes,
yes.
yes.
And this is because you have almost weekly safety meetings, right? Or I know some people that worked out there and their manager opens up the meeting with the safety tip of the day. Or
That's
something
what we
like
do.
that.
That's part of our
Okay.
standard process is when you start a meeting, you have a safety message. And it could be job related. It could be the message at one of the scheduling meetings this morning was be careful when you're driving back and forth, especially on 405 and the beach road out to the Space Center because one of our employees hit a deer. And they were injured and had to go to the hospital. So it's reminding people, especially when it's dark, to be careful and slow down when you're driving to work.
Yeah, it's definitely an ingrained thing. Like any career, you learn how to deal with it there. But I'm always kind of fascinated by that one of the safety conscious things in there. What's been the most satisfaction over your 3 decades of working on America's space program?
It's probably my coworkers and friends that I've made out there.
Meeting Dave.
Meeting Dave,
You met
as
your
Marty
husband out
said.
there?
Yeah, through mutual friends.
Okay, good, good.
We still keep in touch with friends like Pat and Jamie, and it's an exciting place to work. You know, not just the launches, but the other opportunities that it has given to me. The last few years, we have what we call a suppliers conference in Washington, D.C., where we send a team from Florida up there, and we try to get suppliers from all around the country. NASA has contracts from businesses in every state of our country. So we try to get representation in DC, and we break up into individual teams by state, and we go visit our congressional members, and we ask them to continue supporting our space program. That's what I brought you, one of our bumper stickers for Florida that lists all of the contractors working on our program, and we had these for every state.
Oh, okay.
So I was on a Florida team, and we met with different representatives
So
from.
it had the contractors in Ohio or Connecticut.
They're doing the
or-
same thing.
Uh-huh.
So getting to do things like that. A few years ago, there's the big Oshkosh Air Show out in Wisconsin.
Yes.
And NASA had a big booth, and they asked some of us to go work that booth. And that was really interesting to see how excited people from all around the country, and that was really people that were flying in from all over the world, are excited when they see NASA and space
Cool,
travel.
good.
And this, you know, the space program is probably one of the most visible things that people all around the world know about.
Oh, absolutely.
We even had, way back when in the early days, I was in the firing room one time, and Prince Charles was visiting Kennedy
Oh.
Space Center and came through the firing room. We were in the OPF one time, and Jimmy Carter brought his family into the orbiter processing facility
Wow.
to see the space
have a clue they
shuttles.
were President Carter was coming.
No,
huh?
you usually know when there's
Oh, okay.
VIPs coming. Yeah, and even when other astronauts come back, Jan Davis, who was a Georgia Tech girl, she was an astronaut too. She came back to KSC, and I got to tour her around. And there's been movies filmed out there where we were extras one time sitting in the press site bleachers, or we get to escort. If there's a foreign national as part of the crew, they need escorts. So I have the foreign national training. So you might be escorting the people that are filming the movie and stuff like that. So there's so many opportunities and things that you get to do. I brought one more thing.
Well, it is a special place, and that's why we're enjoying our conversation with Ellen Brown here, who's worked out at Kennedy Space Center for 3 decades and currently on the ARTEMIS program here. You brought us a little more show and tell,
When
Ellen.
John Glenn flew,
Oh, yeah.
he
STS
came through.
95.
Yep, him and his crew came through the
Here, set
orbiter
that right
processing
there.
facility,
Uh-huh.
and then they had what they call a CEIT party, and on site, people got to go, and I got all the autographs from that whole crew, and I've got a picture of John Glenn and I somewhere. I can't find it right now, but getting to meet people like that. It's
Yeah,
just
John Glenn made an
opportunities.
impression on everybody that I think was
Yes.
part of that STS 95 mission in there.
Sure, point that down.
Oh, there we go. That's neat. That's nice. And what else? Did you bring something else there with us?
I think we're good.
Oh, okay. Good. You got your Georgia Tech B there, mug there.
Yeah.
So,
Gotta go Jackets.
so that was a fond memory. What other fond memories do you remember of the launches and being part of all that excitement, Ellen?
One of the other things that when United Space Alliance had the shuttle program, they had a rotational development program, and they took people out of their jobs for several months at a time, and you were called like a rotator or a Bubba as a nickname, and
Really?
you got to go through all the different organizations, and NASA does it too, or did it back then. And Lockheed Martin, when I started out there in '88, we were Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin used to do it. Well, when USA started it, I was the first USA rotator. And you mentioned Mike McCulley. McCulley was one of our program managers, and he took me around. Well, I got to spend a month in Houston at headquarters. And he took me to the Astronaut Simulators where they do all their training.
Right.
So I got to pretend that I was
Did you?
flying the orbiter, and I didn't crash and burn. I was way off the center line when I landed it.
Yeah.
I got to do the astronaut simulator where you feel like you're on the end of the arm, like in the payload bay. And they had several other simulators that I got to do and learn how the astronauts train.
Huh.
I actually thought about being an astronaut at one point, but I didn't go very far with that. So.
Well, there were several KSC. Jan Davis was one of the first engineers to be one, I think, right? And so who do you look up to out there in this career? Who do you say, wow, that's somebody that not necessarily I wouldn't want to do their job, but just who do you look up to?
Well, I really admire and enjoy working for Andy Allen.
Okay.
He owns Aerodyne that I worked for as part of the Jacobs contract. Jacobs is prime for TOSC, and Aerodyne and ERC are the teammate companies. And I really enjoy working for Aerodyne. It's a small veteran-owned business, but we have grown so much. We're up to over 400 employees all around the country. We're at a variety of different NASA centers. Aerodyne has been on one of the 5,000 fastest growing companies for the last 2 years, and we've also won NASA's Small Business Awards in 2017 and 2019. So it's nice being part of a small company, but also being part of the Jacobs team working on the TOSC contract. It gives you lots of opportunities there too. And then in public affairs, we get involved in all kinds of things going on. So that makes it a lot of fun. I don't know if you were here for the Apollo 50th parade.
Yes, I
in
was.
Cocoa Beach.
I love that.
Well, it was our group that had a float built, and so we walked in the parade with the float and things like that.
I probably saw you there.
And Andy was riding in the car as one of the astronauts.
Yep, you had quite a few astronauts there. I was thinking, who just stepped down as the commander of Starliner?
Not Rominger. Ferguson?
Yeah, Chris Ferguson. He was there, and he spent a lot of time with the public there. He was over there by the NASA after the parade, and he just talked to everybody, and that was a lot of fun. Yeah, Jerry Ross was there, and had some of the kids of the Mercury astronauts there, and yep, that was fun. And they said there hadn't been a astronaut parade since the 70s,
yeah.
I guess.
So I'd like to see things like that start up again. It was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun. That's fun being here on the Space Coast, believe you me. I pinch myself every morning that I'm involved with this. And we've certainly had a great time talking to Ellen Brown here. Is there something that you'd like to share with our Stay Curious listeners out there that we didn't talk about, Ellen?
Just keep supporting the space program. We're looking forward to the next launch coming up, and hopefully we'll see that really soon.
Good. What do you think of our museum here? I know you've been in it before. But
it's impressive. I know we have tubs of things in our attic with all of our space memorabilia we've collected over the years. And all of us are joking, I wonder if our kids are going to really want this, But so I think it's a great thing for people to be able to do, especially when they find those nuggets, those things that they really want people after us to be able to see and appreciate.
That's right. We, in fact, we sell things on our eBay. We have over 100 items listed. In fact, we sold just this week the analysis of the tethered satellite system that Andy Allen was on both missions. One as a pilot, one as a commander of that. And I think we sold that for $70.
Wow.
Just a nice little manual there of what went wrong. And we love that stuff. Where else are you going to get it?
Yeah.
We've got launch VIP passes and launch programs that VIP. Have you escorted people to launches and stuff? Did you ever get involved in that?
Yes.
And so we have stuff like that, and we bundle them all together. And like I said, where else are you going to get it?
Yes.
And it goes to good homes, and we got some very serious collectors out there that love space memorabilia, and that's how we help our nonprofit. It's a significant impact of money for us coming in on those things. So we're always happy to see your box of brown envelopes that got the lithograph, a thank you letter, and a decal in it.
Yep.
And sometimes there might be something even more special in there.
Lots of patches. Dave's father worked Apollo and Gemini, and we have framed I should have brought it with us, a big frame of all the patches that we found after he passed away that was stored in a box somewhere. So you never know what you're going to come across, too.
Well, Ellen, it's been great talking to you as we wind up our program here, and hope you've enjoyed it out there. Marty, do we have any questions for Ellen?
No, just a lot of thank yous and great jobs.
Good.
Thank you, Marty.
Good. We appreciate
And
that.
she said hello, and a lot of you friends said hello.
Okay, great.
You
Thanks.
can see those comments on there later, and we do appreciate everybody following us here on Stay Curious every day at 4 o'clock. This is our 28th week. Marty Winkle, one of the premier volunteers here at our museum. We couldn't do it without him and the whole team here at the American Space Museum. So thank you, Ellen Brown, for being here. We can't wait to get your husband on the other side here. And thank you, Pat Floyd, for being in the peanut gallery there. We booked Pat Floyd, who I know nothing about, for November 17th. But Marty you've been doing a great job on getting space workers, because that's what our museum's all about. And Ellen, that's who we want to embrace and let people know a little bit about not only just the good careers that you have, but the quality of these people that are entrusted with our national resources of our American space program. Truly wonderful people, and you've exemplified that here by being with us today,
Well, thank
Ellen.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So we've got today's Tuesday. We've got another speaker Thursday. Clay.
Randall Clay.
Randall Clay
He's one of
is
my
going to be here.
coworkers.
Talk to Randall Clay. And you said you have offices next to each other.
Yes.
And he's another project manager, so you want to get up with Randall. Tomorrow, Marty and I will bring you the last 4 Hispanic astronauts to celebrate National Hispanic Month. Ends October 15th, and there's 13 Hispanic astronauts, not all American. But we're going to bring you the last 4 tomorrow. And until then, I'm Mark Marquette, and we're happy that you were with us today to bridge the space between us. Thank you so much, Ellen.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.